Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorka Profiles. I'm here with my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. So today we are joined by Jenna Law. She's the Senior Director of Brand Marketing and Communications at Keke's Breakfast Cafe. Jenna is a powerhouse marketing executive with a passion for creating unforgettable brand experiences and building high impact strategies that drive real growth. With a background spanning both creative agencies and Fortune 500 companies, she brings a unique ability to blend big picture vision with hands on execution. She's led teams across virtually every facet of marketing, from brand strategy and creative development to digital campaigns, influencer marketing, CRM and loyalty programs, menu innovation, and public relations. At Kiki's Breakfast Cafe, Jenna was marketing hire number one. Since then, she's built the marketing function from the ground up, launching the brand identity, leading the first major campaigns, introducing a rewards program, and driving more than 200% growth in off-premise sales. She's also played a key role in opening over 25 locations across 7 states. Jenna, you're a busy girl.
Whew. You say it like that, I'm gonna need another cup of coffee.
Yeah, she gave this smile in the middle of the intro that was like, yeah, I
Yep,
guess I
I
did
guess
do
I
all
did
that.
that.
That's
When you're
great.
in it,
Okay.
when you're in it day to day, you kind of forget how it all stacks up. So,
You
thank
forgot how
you for that
fabulous you
intro. It's
are, huh?
wonderful.
Yeah, well put. Well put. Okay, so we are always fascinated with finding out how our guests got into franchise. So take us back and take us through it.
Okay. Well, franchising found me a little bit as far as this specific role. This is my first time working in a franchise organization, which has been lovely. Also a bit of a learning curve. But I was always more in, company operated teams at Disney, at Darden restaurants, at agencies. But it was really an opportunity to come back to the restaurant space, which for me was not just my first job when I was 15 and continued to work in restaurants all the way up until my mid 20s, even on top of daily jobs. But my whole family is restaurant people. My dad was a culinarian, he was a corporate executive chef. He met my mom way back when they were trainers for a restaurant concept, and then she was in
Huh.
corporate restaurant marketing. So our test kitchen at home for my brother and I, our kitchen was a test kitchen essentially, and we were always just around restaurants, restaurant people. It was a big part of our family culture and still is. So being in the people business, if you will, has always felt like home for me. And being able to make my way back there and try something new with Kiki's, it it was kind of a no-brainer on kind of my gut said you have to go for it. So you mentioned being able to build the program from scratch. I think a lot of marketers have that dream of like a blank canvas. Let's see what I can really do. If I have, I wouldn't say completely free reign, but not a lot of precedent. You're not trying to fix and retrofit things, but it was truly starting from scratch on this brand and getting to be part of that vision, which was awesome.
Oh my goodness, I love this. So, raised in a family with a culinary background and a restaurant background, a hospitality background, but starting something pretty much from the ground up was something new. And I got to tell you, starting something new for many of us is scary. How is it you just felt so drawn to it or willing to start from scratch? Um, are you a natural risk taker? Are you a natural creative? Tell us more about that.
Probably a little bit of both and maybe a little bit of crazy too. Uh, I love coordinating chaos. Um, you know, People always kind of talk about what's your superpower, all of that. And I do think that blend of creativity, one of my, strengths finders talents is futuristic and being able to really see a vision of where we can go and different paths to get there. So taking the ideas, um, hopefully selling them in and getting buy-in, getting lots of input to make them great. But taking them out of the sky and putting them here on the ground and executing them, I would definitely say is one of my value adds that I bring to most of my teams and a
Mhm.
challenge I really enjoy. It doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid to fail fast and keep moving. And I'm also confident in my experience, but also my kind of personal network of people I can call up and say, hey, I'm facing something. How have you handled this? Not being afraid to ask for input, support when you have it, is definitely a big part of the way I lead.
You know,
Okay, I got to backtrack.
yeah.
Tracy, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
got to
go,
ask
go,
the
go.
question. You're probably going the same
Nope.
direction too, sweetheart. Um, you brought up the strengths finders. Can you tell us a little bit more about your key strengths? You kind of hinted at it and how that kind of understanding your strengths really has helped you build something from the ground up. So can you tell us a little bit more about your personal strengths according to the Strength Finder?
So StrengthsFinder in particular, and I know we were chatting a little bit about this. I love all of these personality test spectrums, whatever you want to call it, systems. Most recently did StrengthsFinder with our executive team, so it's fresh on my mind. So a ranger, learner, futuristic, I forgot what my other two top five are, but basically, I'm definitely somebody who likes to move forward. Um, is not afraid to build, brings people along, and kind of, we call it GSD, get stuff done. If you'd like to replace that S with a different word, go for it. But we always joke we're going to get it tattooed on our knuckles. So I think, again, knowing that that's how I can help even people on my team, their objectives, being able to communicate those with clarity, be able to bring it all the way through kind of the red thread and cross-functionally work across teams to really make it happen, put project plans around it, and activate on ideas and kind of bridge that gap of, I know where we want to go, I know what the strategy is, but how do we actually make that happen?
GS GSD. Love that. Get
GSD,
stuff
get
done.
stuff done.
Yeah, if you love strength finders, you're going to love the Zarko profile, especially because it's so franchise specific. I can't wait for you to take that.
I love
So I was curious, like I know as an artist, sometimes it's really scary, like Rebecca said, scary to put that first stroke of paint on a canvas. So where do you draw your inspiration from?
Ooh, that's so good. I look at the people who we support. In a franchise organization, it's even more so because these are essentially small business owners, some maybe larger than others. This is for a lot of our single unit operators, their family business, their livelihoods, what they're passing on to their kids, hopefully, their family legacy. So when I think about putting that first stroke of paint, I can't think about myself. I can't even think about just the bottom line. I think about what's right for our people. I think about what's right for our guests. And that's what really inspires me because it keeps a really healthy, humble lens on all of the great big ideas. There's so much in marketing that you could do between new technology and comms and local and national and where do you go? What channels do you do? Like every day it's more and more complex. So I always try to keep myself grounded in the people part of this business. And that really guides me, I think, in making the right decision. Where one of our values, even on the team, is people first. It's the one thing we talk about the most. And I've really tried to internalize that. And I think it is a great North Star to have.
Beautiful.
I love that. So I want to ask you questions about the brand and how one actually builds that identity. What was your first focus? Was it on creating that brand identity? Was it more about who's our customer? Was it more about how do we generate the most revenue? I guess I'm asking this because the breakfast space is a crowded space, and you had to find a way to clearly define yourself and differentiate Kiki's.
Mhm. Well, you have to be authentic. You can go into a brand as a marketer and say, this is how I want it to be, how I want it to be perceived or look. but that actually has to align with the experience. When I joined
Hmm.
Keke's, the brand was already, I don't know, 16 years old. As a Florida native, I'd gone to Keke's a lot of my life. So anybody who's listening that might be in Florida, you might be familiar with Keke's. It began in Orlando and grew to over 50 locations across Florida by the time I came on board. So so when I was considering the job, I'll just kind of backtrack to this point in time. I already felt that there was something there. The brand was there. There was a reason why, with essentially no marketing, this brand grew to be
Hmm.
very successful because they were doing something right. So it started first with understanding and seeking to understand what were those pillars that made people keep coming back and have a love for Kiki's? What was the brand doing right? What needed to be protected? We had some research done, but a lot of it was spending time in cafes with teams and with guests and watching, observing, learning, putting myself through the full training program, being part of the restaurant from the inside out. So starting there, it really helped me realize the operational excellence and some really
Hmm.
commitments to some core metrics operationally that had to be protected. A focus on fast, friendly service, something where almost everybody's treated like a regular, everyone belongs, um, and a total obsession with quality ingredients and presentation. Kiki's Breakfast Cafe isn't this over the top, super trend driven Instagram
Hmm.
extraordinary boozy brunch place that might be popping up all over the place. We take really great, loved, classic American breakfast, brunch, and lunch dishes and we put a spin on them. We just do them better. We elevate them. We're not cutting back on portions. Things hit the table and you think you ordered a pancake. Well, little did you know it's a stack of three the size of your head, and you can get as
Oh.
much whipped cream as you want and you see a kid's face and their jaw drop, that's sort of the Kiki's experience. So keeping that intact and just giving this brand, which already was a brand, I didn't make the brand. I just gave it a voice. I gave it a megaphone. I figured out who are we
Wow.
talking to, but who do we want to talk to? What do we say and where do we say it? And how does it look? I gave it the identity piece, but I'm telling a
Hmm.
story that was already going, was already really strong. And part of the reason why I loved Kiki's and made the jump to come here.
I love that they already had a brand and you didn't give it a voice, you gave it a megaphone. I love that. That's such a great analogy. So as much as I love Kiki's pancakes and definitely their whipped cream, I have to say my favorite item on the menu is the blueberry cream cheese French toast.
Oh, yes.
To die for. I love that. I have to know, what is your favorite? What's your favorite item on the menu?
I am an omelet girl for sure.
Um,
So I kind of fluctuate though. Sometimes I make my own. I kind of do a riff on their Italian chicken panini, but in an omelet,
mm,
or I just go for the Greek. I
nice.
love me some veggies. So do that. I get my home fries well done. I like them crispy. So that's the pro tip for everyone out there. And toast,
Nice.
of course.
I love it. I want to get a little personal here, Jenna. You've lived a lot of life and seen a lot of changes, um, both in business as well as franchising and women in franchising. If you had something on your heart, something that you're saying people really should understand or hear or appreciate, what would that be?
We we live in a very interesting era right now. There's a lot of change. There's always a lot of change, but I think right now what I hear from whether it's mentees or my team members or just people at the office is there's just underlying anxiety. There's
Mhm.
change and uncertainty. I won't say the whole unprecedented times thing because that's a bit of a trope, but it is a little true, like what we've gone through both in the restaurant industry, but also as humans in the past 5 years. And I think my call to every professional woman out there is whether you're in a leadership position or not, you have an opportunity still to lead and be bold in the face of change and be fearless. And some of the tools It doesn't take a special talent to do that, even if it does feel a little scary. Courage is acting even when you're afraid.
Hmm.
But, be confident in what you bring to the table. Be clear on your own values. Don't sacrifice your own rituals or routines or whatever centers you. Because whatever room you walk into, whether you're an individual contributor or a leader, you can affect the temperature of that room. And if you bring the calm and you bring the clear-headedness, even if on the inside maybe you don't feel that way, maybe your hands are shaking or your voice is shaking, being able to show up in that way, people will stop and listen and notice that. And you can change the culture of your team in those simple moments and actions. So really having that confidence and if you're not sure where to start with that, reaching out and building your network of strong women. Maybe there's some
Hmm.
men in there too, but let's be real. Bring on the matriarchy. No, just kidding. Find your village of mentors or peers, even if it's someone random on LinkedIn. You're like, hey, we seem to have a lot of crossover people in common. Like, let's be each other's sounding boards. Find support within, but also outside of yourself and find that strength. It's a
I
lot
love
of what
that
I'm
you
talking
said,
about lately.
I love
Yeah.
that you said anyone can change the temperature of the room. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. It's, you can walk in and there can be a fire. People can be freaking out. They can be going at each other. They could be unsure. Maybe no one's stepping up to own something. Again, you don't have to be the most senior person in the room to make an impact. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room either. So
Mhm.
just carrying yourself, calmly again, everyone feels that ripple effect, right? We've all been in the
Hmm.
room when somebody walks in and they either bring in the bad vibe, the juju, and suddenly everyone, it tanks, it gets negative. And you've been on the flip side of that. I'm sure we all have a story of that. Somebody walks in and it's like a breath of fresh air and they said, "Hey, let's just take a break. Let's step back. Let's whatever it is." Um, and everybody has the
Hmm.
power to be either one of those.
So this is so fascinating to me in that you mentioned something about being an individual contributor and or a leader. I'm thinking about my generation where we were trained as women to be in a support role, to be kind of a harmonizer. I'm not sure when I was younger, I ever thought of myself as having the possibility of being um, of impact, period. I was more, this person's leading, and I'm simply in a helper kind of role. That's a massive change in identity that you have, and I pray others have in this generation, that they can change the temperature. They can have an impact, whether it's walking into the room and bringing peace, or walking into the room and bringing creativity, or walking in the room and creating harmony, or a place of uh, being appreciated. I think that's a beautiful set of beliefs that women should have and could dramatically change the way we do business.
I hope so.
So that's just me lecturing and on a soapbox because that was an aha
Yeah.
moment for me.
Yeah, it's
Do you
just
have
about
any?
owning, like you talked about, knowing your own strengths. And not everybody wants to go out and be a CEO. That's
Mm-mm.
fine. You don't have to be. You could be extremely fulfilled and happy in your role. And know, but again, you know your value. Like maybe you're the executive assistant, but maybe you're the world's freaking best one because you own that and you're trusted and you bring light to your job. And again, it's not to pressure people to say you have to go reach for the stars if that's not for you.
Mhm.
But, confidence comes and like we were just talking about, the ability to influence isn't tied to your title, you know.
Wow. Do you think your self-reflection, especially with these different personality um, tools that you've researched and that you love, the Enneagram and the MBTI. Do you think that helped you see your personal value where you could
Oh, yes.
be that? Can
Yeah.
you elaborate a little bit? Because I do think getting to know ourselves is a big part of understanding our value that we bring to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on a very personal level. So, the Enneagram I discovered, I'll just start with that one because it was really the one that clicked for me, which I know we got to talk a little bit about outside of this podcast episode. Because and not everybody knows the Enneagram, but I'm a type 7 with an 8 wing. And also, as a marketer and a creative person, I'm very much have always been sort of the generalist. I love to learn. I do a lot of
Mm,
start and stop or just dabbling, professional dabbler, because it just interests me. I like to learn. I like to know a lot about a lot of things. I was never the person who wanted to go really, really deep. I always looked almost with envy at some of my peers who were like just so focused on, I want to know everything about this one thing. They were truly a specialist, or they went on to med school and or out there doing surgery, like whatever it was. Because I never really had that focus. And really, my whole life, I felt either was told or coached or just heard, I don't know, felt
Mhm.
that that was something wrong with me, that I couldn't,
Wow.
like that. You can't commit to anything. You try things like it's your job. Like it's not a dressing room. Like there are all these standards of putting a bad spin on wanting to be
Yeah.
more of a generalist, which I didn't know that term at the time, growing up. And I was like, why can't I just like pick one thing and just be obsessed with it and be like the best in the whole wide world? Like, why can't I just go deep? I later learned as I uncovered the Enneagram, I, for the first time, got validation that that's actually a strength, that I
Yeah.
wasn't alone in that, that that's actually like a whole personality type. And there's benefits to that. And that just because you are most like that, it's also not, you're not stuck in that. Because it also said, but hey, that might be true. But what about that one time when you really care about something, you tap into that 5 part of you and you go deep and you can do it, but it has to matter to you. And that's okay. So
Hmm.
so I use that still to this day. I stopped beating myself up on like why can't I just be super detail oriented and have all these strengths that I see my peers doing, especially in agency when you're like an account coordinator. You're doing like very tedious things usually. And I was like, it was my personal like torture. Like I hated it because I'm a big picture thinker. And I thought there was something wrong with me. So that's just a personal anecdote of why, if you're out there listening and you haven't really taken all the personality stuff seriously, maybe there's something there where if you're trying to fit yourself into another box, stop doing that and own
Hmm.
the one that you're in and figure out how to just make your box bigger. And you don't want to have the other person's box either, by the way. Like that's theirs. They can have it. Build your own,
Yeah.
you know? I have 3 girls, 5 and under, and whenever we get a giant box, right, they're out there decorating it, bedazzling it,
Mhm.
whatever. This box gets transformed to like own that. Bedazzle your own box.
Dazzle your own box. I love it.
That's a new one.
Everything
I'm going
you
to
just
bring that
said.
back with me to my team.
Yeah, is that the name of her book, Rebecca? Bedazzle your
I
own
was thinking the
Bedazzle.
same thing, girl. There's a lot of chapters I'm already seeing in Jenna's
right?
book.
I love it. Everything you just said resonated so much with me because, yes, my whole life I have been also told, um, why can't you just stick with something? So I would love for you to talk more about that because I'm sure if it resonated with me and it resonates with you, there's so many listeners that resonates with. Um, can you talk a little bit more about being a generalist and what it means to pulling a team together and building a business?
hmm Yeah. Well, you probably can talk to anybody and be a very interesting person in the room. That's the fun part of being a generalist is no matter what somebody does, I know something random about that. But jokes aside, when you get to a certain level, you have to be able to step back and look at all the pieces, see how they fit, be a connector, and maybe be able to speak a little bit of a different functions language. So
Hmm.
if I'm talking to finance about an idea, I need to bring a business case that has some good financial and just solid business acumen built into it. I can do that. If I need to give strategic creative feedback to our agencies, I've been in their shoes. I know a little bit about the process. I understand creatively where things might need to go or how to give the feedback the right way, that it's not art directing, it's, rooted in strategy, like that whole dynamic. I feel really confident
Mhm.
doing that. Maybe just saying, hey, this project is huge. It takes 5 different teams. How does everybody plug into the project plan? And how do we kind of assign and delegate roles and responsibilities to get it done? So when you can have some piece of understanding and empathy for the different teams and whatever as a leader, you're going to be able to create that unified vision. And when people see that you have a unified vision, when you need to lead a group, being able to clearly articulate where you're going and why is super
Mhm.
important. So, a vision that everyone can get behind. And when you're also communicating to different groups, being able to adjust as you need to give them what they need and meet them where they are is really, really powerful. And some people have it, some people have to learn it, but it's definitely something you should be aware of is how well can you shape your message to not fall on deaf ears.
This reminds me of a couple of things, Jenna. This generalist that you talk about, um, with Zorka, we call it the CEO pattern because they can literally step into any role and maybe not be an expert at that role, but have a good understanding about it, therefore build a team around that, whatever those individual roles are. And
Yeah.
this part of you that really took time to get to know yourself also understood that you were a learner. You didn't need to know every tiny itty bitty detail, but you had curiosity enough to ask questions, to learn from someone from your team, but to also stay here, stay strategic, stay big picture, but understand each role or each person that's part of the team. And that's what makes you, in my opinion, a phenomenal leader, right? Um, Again, having run probably 200,000 assessments at Zoracle, I can tell you the CEO pattern is a generalist. He or she is not an expert, right? And
Mhm.
knows to put other people around them that are, right? Experts in those
And
particular.
I think it's what you're saying is also true for being able to recruit and recognize the right talent, ask the right questions in the interview. And it's something I respect a lot about our current brand president, my manager, is I think my peers on the leadership team, I think he's assembled like a phenomenal group of Avengers. Um, yeah, that all have like the right skill set and it's very complementary. And he never claims to be the expert, but he hired people he can trust to do the right thing and have the right, experience for that and was able to recognize that, in each of us.
Yeah.
That's funny because I was going to ask you how you build your team.
Um, yeah, my team right now is not huge, but it's a
Yeah.
combination of complementary skills.
Mhm.
Um, what are the values I want my team to have? You might have organizational values, but if you're leading a team, you should have team values. Whether you talk about them a lot, I mean, hopefully you talk about them a lot, to be honest, and you do it together. But at least internally, what are the things I want my team members to exhibit? So making sure as you're interviewing people, you're trying to get a sense of that. Is it going to be a cultural fit for the team I want to build, the culture I want to build? You should have a vision of where that's going. And to be honest, do they mesh? Like, is this someone I want to work with? It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be, or an agency, or even when you're looking at suppliers and vendors and you're down to the final two, everything gets a lot more synergistic when, I mean, I hate to say it, but like who you work with. If you have the choice, don't put yourself in a position or that individual as well that everyone's just going to end up frustrated at the end of the day. And that doesn't really get anybody further. And it's a two-way street. It's not just like I'm going to pick people I like. They need to like you too. So be open and transparent and share your vision. Let them in a little bit as you hire And you'll either see them kind of light up and click with that, or you might see, some body language. Where you're like, okay, well, maybe we're not on the same page with that. And how much does that matter at this point? You'll have to ask yourself that.
So true. You said something earlier about leading through change. And with change comes uncertainty, especially in today's world with AI and knowledge bases growing so rapidly and marketing changing. I almost call it building the airplane while you're already flying, right?
Mhm.
So, for someone that's not great at change, and I'm sure there's others that are similar to me, how do you deal with figure it out as you go environments, and how do you help others be more agile, be more adaptable, be more open-minded about all the changes that are going on in the world and going on in marketing?
Yeah. I don't know that I fully nailed it yet, but I've been working on it. If we find the answer today, that'll be a big one together. I mean, a few of the things I've noted already thematically, I think still really apply to going through change. And it's having your own self-centered confidence and like find your zen, whatever that is, however that is. As a leader, staying transparent. Don't keep your teams in the dark. Over communicate during change, even if it's I don't really know where this is going, but I want you to know it's being spoken about, or we've heard your concerns and we're not ignoring them, but we're still waiting for the next milestone, whatever that is. So over communication and transparency, finding your own grounding, is really important to help navigate that. And I think when it comes to, again, just helping people through change, it's allowing some space for failure and risk taking. A lot of times, I think people who are a little afraid of change might be afraid of failing. I don't know if that's true, but at least in my world, it's like, ooh, that's like kind of risky, or like, I don't want to look stupid, or I don't know what
Yeah.
next week is bringing, and like, what's going to happen?
Hmm.
Like, what if I can't do the new job or the new this or that or whatever? So normal and healthy to have those feelings. But I was actually just talking to my husband this morning. Like, I think everyone needs one big mistake to realize that it's okay. Like, no, like everybody's probably made, or if you haven't yet, let yourself. Don't be afraid of it, and be a leader
Yeah.
who lets it happen and doesn't make someone feel terrible if a mistake happens. Show them how to get through it, and that the sun rises tomorrow. In our world, we're just selling pancakes. You go through it once,
Whipped
the
cream with a
stage
lot of
fright
whipped cream.
is a lot easier. Yeah, just add more whipped cream. It'll be fine. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a perfect answer, but the best thing I think we can do is allow space to talk about it, to feel it, to experience it, pick people up um, when they fall, and just don't lose sight of what matters to you through it all because you can't control what's happening outside, but you can always control what's happening inside. I'm a big lover of stoicism as well, and trying to just own the internal dialogue as kind of
Mm,
a shield against everything we're, barraged with every day.
that's so emotionally intelligent,
Yes,
isn't it?
it is. Well, this is one girl that's emotionally intelligent. There is no doubt about it.
Yes. So tell me how the artwork behind you reflects your personality.
There's blackness and then light. No, my husband and I love art. I think creativity is what makes us human. The will to create something from nothing, the will to create something beautiful. Everyone might believe their own thing, but for me, that is the fingerprint of God on us, that
Yes.
we're pretty much the only species that creates art and music and literature and has a need to. So that's
That's beautiful.
really always been something important to me. And it balances the crazy. I spent all day running around in restaurants or talking numbers, and to just have a little moment of expression is super important for our balance in our family. Um, Keeping our kids hands on with that too and connected to that side and working out the other part of your brain.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, a little bit of color goes a long way, and life's too short to be gray.
To be bland. I know that millennial gray and white and black was driving me nuts. I like what you said, though. We are created in God's image, and He is a creator and made us to create, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, not expressing that part of us is holding back a big part of us, whether it is through art or music or writing or other forms
Or
of self
science or
expression.
discovery, like we are built to make things.
We are built to make things and create things. There is no doubt. Okay, we're running out of time. I have one final
Okay.
question. You have three young daughters. You're a girl mama. What legacy do you want to leave for them? Or what lesson do you want to leave for them? But what legacy do you want your daughters to embrace?
Hmm. Just to forge their own path. It feels so cliched, but I mean, we're going to be raising kids in the era of social media, and who knows even what it's going to look like in 5 to 10 years. And they're so impressionable. There's so many things coming at them. And there's so many things outside your locus of control as a parent when you send them off to daycare, to play dates, or, my oldest is getting ready to start kindergarten next year, which is wild. Um, so I don't know, just giving them that really strong compass and making sure that they've also seen their mom and dad um, living their life their way too, and being bold enough to speak up and stand up and be different if they want to be, or whatever. I just want them to keep their little spirits alive, and live life on their terms a bit.
It's so beautiful. So you snuck a term in there that not everybody knows, called the locus of control, which is a big deal for me. And I'm hoping someday we can have you back to talk about it. I think it's something that we all should be taking responsibility for. And I think that's a wonderful legacy for you to teach that to your girls and show them how they really can create their own destiny, right? They are in control of that. So it's a wonderful topic. I hope someday you will volunteer to come back and
I would love to anytime. You know how to find me now. Just reach out.
Well, how
so
does our audience find you?
I'm sorry, what was that, Tracy?
How does our audience find you?
Oh
How,
goodness. I guess they can find me on LinkedIn, Jenna Law. I'm out there. I love to connect and meet new people. So
love that.
my message inbox is always open. Or if you're around Orlando, I'm probably running around to Keke's, so I might see you there.
wonderful. Jenna, I want to thank you for making time for us today. I think Tracy is absolutely correct that you have a book within you. Many of the chapters are already
Oh,
outlined. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that looks like in your future. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insights, and most importantly, your heart with us today. So thank you so much.
sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This was fantastic, and it's been great getting to know you both.
Tracy, I'm going to punt it over to you for some closing statements.
Thank you, Rebecca. So Jenna the generalist. Okay, you're always encouraging people to bedazzle their own box. I've been getting the idea that you're not just a creator, like you're capable of creating something from nothing, but you're also a temperature amplifier. Like you said about what you did with Keke's, right? The megaphone, they already had a voice, but it sounds like you do that religiously, like with everyone around you, where you can take what somebody's skills are and just help amplify them and bring out their personal creativity. So I really love that for you. And a lot of what you said today truly, truly resonated with me. I love that you gave that whole generalist a voice, because I think a lot of times you're right. We are, accused of not putting our all into something when there's just a natural curiosity across the board, like horizontal curiosity rather than vertical curiosity, perhaps. But thank you for sharing that. Thank you for giving that a voice. And just for all the work that you do and for your creativity. I think it's really commendable. Thank you.
Thank you.
For sure. And thank you to our audience today for listening in. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, share Jenna Law's interview today. And we'll see you again next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.